is you, Lord. You know, people make statements like, you know, sometimes all like, that's where you start wrong. Not sometimes. Every day, says the Lord, we need Him to guide us, protect us, and of course to make the right decisions. And a decision was taken recently, that being Friday, to ban child marriages in Trinidad and Tobago. And on one side of the coin, there has been celebration, and on the other side of the coin, there has been an uproar. So what we're going to do is put the coin aside and try and balance this thing. And let us see if we can bring some perspective into this whole issue of child marriages in the context of what we're dealing with today. Welcome once again to Cloud 9 on ACTN. I am Sheldon Yearwood, the only show that makes you smile, and I know there's a lot that we sometimes think there's not to smile about. We need to see the rainbow after the rain. All right? And we need to understand that amidst everything that is going on, there is joy in the Lord. So be happy, smile. I'm sure there's something good that's happening in your life. Focus on that and not the storm around you, but the peace of God in you, and you will make things right. Trust me. No. So the issue of child marriages, and you know, we've had a lot of statements being made. I've been listening to several programs where people have been calling and expressing their views. You know, I've actually heard people who profess to be believers weighing very cautiously on the topic. But I want to take a look at a couple of things, a few things today. The first one is my Wise Up segment, and this is, it was a bit of a street interview that was done, street interviews, where people were asked about their view about child marriages, and this would have been prior to the debate on Friday, where, of course, the decision was taken by both the government and opposition to basically stand down child marriages. Later on, we're going to take a look at two very short clips of child marriages in other countries and its repercussions, particularly hearing from the child or the children themselves. Again, I think we need to look at this from a broader perspective. Let's go to our Wise Up segment at this time and take a look at what people had to say. So coming up, before we go to the clip, tomorrow or Thursday, we're gonna have the views of not only an attorney, but also we're also going to take a look from a social perspective. Because again, we've been hearing all the arguments, but the discussion must continue. The discussion must continue. This, I believe, is just the beginning of another season of this whole issue of child marriages. The decision Friday doesn't mark the ending, but it marks the beginning of something new, or the ending of one thing and the ushering of another in terms of the law. So the discussion must continue. So this clip, it was done locally, and I want you to hear some of the interesting comments that were made by some of those who spoke, and then I'm going to give you my view.
I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that they continue going to school. I ain't seeing that.
No, because she don't have an adult age. No.
Necessarily.
Would it be
If you're married,
parents?
if you're married, but if you're married, then you come like you have your rights and everything. Then
So you think marriage makes an adult?
That you still don't have no rights. Because at the end of the day, you're still a child.
okay.
Well, if she married, is that a big husband at the time?
She husband?
Well, I would say she go to the husband because she's a married person now, but when you get married, you cut the ties. Well, not really cut the ties with your parents, but your husband become, you know?
She'll go to the adult husband because now she married. She not belong to she parents anymore.
So when minors want to get married, minors should only get married to minors. This would eliminate the fact that if 50 could get married to a 12-year-old. And
International Planned Parenthood had this to say: frequent sexual activity leads to frequent pregnancies with the possibility of pregnancy-related illnesses. Infant mortality is twice as high among young mothers than in older women. Pregnancy-related deaths are the leading cause of mortality in 15 to 19-year-olds, and those aged under 15 years are 5 times more likely to die than those aged 20. International Center for Research said with the lack of status and power, young brides are more likely to experience domestic violence, sexual abuse, and isolation from family and community.
Very interesting series of interviews that were done there. Okay, so we spoke earlier on about putting everything in its context. I want to read something for you here. Youth is the time of life when one is young, but often means the time between childhood and adulthood. I'll stop there. So a youth, first of all, is not a child. A youth is someone between childhood and adulthood, which could be classified as a teenager. So therefore, there has been the argument that a teenager with parental consent can get married. But then we have a situation where we are making reference to a Child Marriage Act. There are some cultures, and there are those who are making that argument in Trinidad. There are some cultures who will marry children at the age of 12, 13, thereabout. If you're looking to make the argument about youth, then therefore there are still certain boundaries based on the culture that you're from, whereby it is still not a matter of just because you feel to get married that you get married. There are certain things that must be done. And I say that culture plays a significant part in this decision to get married. Someone called a radio program yesterday, and he was making the argument, and he said, you know, what age was Mary when she was engaged to Joseph? And if in the biblical times, engagement means marriage. So once you engage, in the sight and the eyes of God, you are married. And of course, Mary would have been somewhere between 17, 19, thereabout, right? I'm not going to go into specifics. So between that age. But I also want us to take a look at the context of the times that Mary lived, or Jesus walked the earth, or whoever, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Compare a youth then to a youth today. Compare a 15-year-old then to a 15-year-old today. Compare the environment or the culture that they lived in to what we have today. It is not the same. The level of maturity just 50 years ago, forget thousands, let's bring it up. 50 years ago to today leaves a lot to be desired. And I say that because if we are discussing this situation of child marriages, everything must be taken in its context. Everything must be taken in its context. We are talking about children getting married. That's why they said 18 years and over. So if you want to make the argument that Mary and others may be around the age 18 or 19 back then, you know what? Hey, then they were fit to be married. You understand what I'm saying? We need to be very, very careful. Everything in its context. Everything in its context. And, you know, we have been hearing these arguments about the child marriage bill. And if we understand something, a child must always allow to be a child. And that is, I think that is what people are missing in this whole argument. You cannot You know, and this is why I want people to see the other two videos that are coming up. Right? Because it's not a matter of, I know I heard Mrs. Admiraj made a statement about the government going into the bedrooms of families and so forth. But this is not about trying to invade the privacy of families, but it's about looking at this from a holistic perspective, right? So that the rights of the child is put on the forefront, that is considered first. And I think when we're looking at this whole issue, even from different religious bodies, we must understand, again, the environment and the culture that we live in today. That's why I found those questions very interesting. Very, very interesting. So therefore, you know, the debate continues. So let us not confuse, number one, child with youth. That's the first thing. Do not confuse the two and want to bring references of what happened thousands of years ago to now. We are speaking of situations where children aged 12 and 13 and even 14 years are being asked to wed. If we go back to scriptures, man and woman cleave, become one, leave their father's house, etc., etc. Man, woman. They never say child. Never said child. And man makes reference to a certain level of maturity. Likewise, woman. Likewise, woman. Youthful age. And before we go to the break, that period between childhood and adulthood, there is a deeper understanding. Is that period of your life whereby there's certain things you are being prepared for adulthood, which means you will come to a greater understanding of what marriage is. And that is why they're saying at 18 years, even though you have now kind of been ushering into adulthood, your mind would have been prepared from the age of 15, 16, 17 to understand the responsibilities that come with a marriage. So when you reach that age and you decide to take that step, then therefore you would be at a place of development where you will understand the role and responsibilities of being in this covenant. All right? When we come back from the break, we're going to go to two clips, and I want to talk to you briefly about, well, some experiences I've had or I've seen of families or couples who I know would have been wed when the child or the girl would have been 12 or 13. And I will tell you about these couples when we return.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren. And he hates marriage because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, if I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, I got the drop.
So if you want to live behind walls all your life and live an isolated, lonely, miserable life, go ahead. But I suggest that you tear down all your walls and let God be a wall of protection about you. And he says all of your walls will be called peace.
Welcome back. Let's go to our Let's Chat segment, and we're going to touch on some real-life experiences that I've seen, and I want to, I may get in some trouble for this statement, you know, but it has to be said. Let's go. A bit of a downpour outside, so we thank God for the blessings of rain, but we hope that there's no flooding, so be careful wherever you are. Now, marriage should be one of the more liberating experiences anyone has. Marriage, right? It's supposed to be a sense of freedom. However, because of world influences, it has seen as a form of bondage. I always make the point that God is a God about, well, relationships. And if that is the case, relationships also supposed to be a sense of freedom, bring that sense of freedom where we can commune and, you know, be one with each other. The concept of religion is confused quite often with relationship. And religion in itself has been a form of bondage for many people across the world. Religious mindset. This way is like my way or no way. In this kind of way? Yeah, this kind of way. I have seen many couples. Now, your disposition says a lot about, you know, who you are. And I know a few couples well who, you know, based on hearing about their experiences through my own parents, who would have been married when they were 13, 12 years old, given to, you know. And this is not just Hinduism. This is actually just other, just, again, cultural perspective. When you look at these couples today, I'm telling you, trying to get a smile out of them is like trying to get a smile out of a stone. They walk around looking very depressed. There seems to be no joy in the marriage, or none. Why? Because you have to understand what marriage is, because of what the covenant is, and this goes for, you know, across the board. Divorce, not an option. Of course, that again is something for another discussion, because based on circumstances, then therefore, there are those who would, of course, seek divorce and seek allowance for it, and they will seek their counsel and they will pray about it. But the bottom line is, many of them will hold on. So they remain in bondage because of decisions that were made for them and not decisions that they made for themselves. And that is what you find happening with so many marriages. And that same bondage, like a domino effect, passes on from generation to generation. And then you find a heap of divorce, heap of bad living, abuse, you name it, incest, all of that, because different demonic entrances have different assignments. And we have to be very careful. When we're thinking we're doing a good, yeah, you're trying to protect the child, and with everything happening around the world today, you're not allowing the child or allowing the Holy Spirit to help groom that child, mold that child, to think on their own as they get older. Purpose as parents is to guide your children, not to make them robots, not to turn them in who you are. And I think that is what happens a lot in many of these situations that I have seen. So let me go to this first clip. I mean, there's so much to say, but I want us to take a look at this. This, I think, is, I'm not sure exactly which country, but one of them is an Asian country. I think that's the first one. And the other one is from a country, a state in Africa. Take a look at it. These are very popular countries where child marriages are done. And let's be real about it, all right? Take a
ተንገላትቼ ነው የቀረው። ይደበደኛ እንጂ ማለት ግብረ ስጋ ግንኙነት ሲባል አላውቅም። እኔ ዛን ጊዜ እንዴት እንደሆነ አላውቅም። እሱ እኔ 7 አመት ሰው እሱ 16 አመት ነው እንዴ ሆኖታል።
እሱም ትንሽ ነው እኔም ትንሽ ነኝ።
ግን የዛን ጊዜ እንዴት ምን አላውቁም። ትዳርና ሲባል እኔ ልብስና ልብስሻሉና ወሰዱ ይገበያ
ዛሬ ገብታችሁ ነው የተባለው ማለት ነው። ለነገ ስለሆነ ማድረስ ስለምችል
ዋት ነሳ ተደገሰ ወላ ሲደገስ ነው የተቀመጭ እዛ ውስጥ አሉ ወሩና ተቀመጥኩኝ ኋላ ሀርነን ምሸት
የሰርጌለትማ ጠዋት ቀኑ ሙሉ እዚያው ሲደገስ ሲጨፈር ዋለ። ቀኑን እዚያው ድግስ ዋለ። ኋላ ማታ ላይ ምሸት ወደዚያ ስነድ ፈረስ ነው ፈረስ አይሆንልኝም አዝሎ ነው የወሰዱኝ።
ልጥፋ ስል ሲደበደበኝ ምን ሲለኝ አማቴቱ ደግሞ ምን አበሻ አብረሽ ማተኝ ስትለኝ እየተነሳው በጎታውን በምን በዳሪው ስወጣ ተጫጉሎም እንዲሁም ወጥቼ ሲመታ ጊዜ ጠፍቼ ጀነዋል።
ተመጀመሪያ ቀን ጀምሮ ያው እኔ ደስተኛ አይደለሁም። ምንም አላውቅም። እዚያ ደስተኛ አይደለሁም። ያው ሳለቅስ ነው የሰነበት ማለት ነው።
እናት አባት የጠፍቼ ሰደሙ አንቺ ምን አባሽ ያው ተቀመጭ እንጂ የጋላሞታ ልጅ ወይም የቁመ ቀር ልጅ ብለሽ ምታሰድኝ ምን አባሽ ነው እያሉ እያባረሩ ሲሰዱ እናት አባቴ ሲሸኙ ታባለ ጋር ይሆንና ሲሸኙ እኔም እዚያው ታባሩኝማ እነሱም እዚያም እነዚህም ታሰቃዩኝማ እንግዲህ ያልና በዛፉም በምንም ሰቀልና ሳድር ጅበልቶኝ ነበር። አንድ ጊዜም በዛፉ ተሰቅያ አድሬ አሁን ዛን ጊዜ እናንተ እንግዲህ በዛፉ ተሰቅላት አደርሽማ ከንቱ ልጅ በጅብል ትበላ የለ ጉዳት ላገኛታ ይላልና መልሷ መጣኝ።
እናቴ ዝም ብላ ምናምን ነገር የላትም። ከዛ መሬቷን አከራየችና ጥጃ እየጠበቀች አስተምሪ ብላት እምቢ አለች። አስተምራይ ቢሆን አሪፍ ነበር። ሴት ልጅ ኖርኝ አስተምራታለሁ አልድራትም።
ዛሬ ሰው ሁላ ሲዳር ሲጎራርስ እጅለሽ ተጊዞ ሲሄድ በጣም ቀናለሁ።
የኔንማ እንድታየው አልፈልግም። የኔን ስቅይት እሷ እንድታየው አልፈልግም። እሷ እንደገና ተደስታ እንድትኖር ነው የምፈልግ። የኔው ስቅይት ይበቃል እያሉ ነው።
Marriage should never be bondage. I think that is my, that is the essence of what I want people to understand. Marriage should never, ever be bondage or seen as bondage. And again, it has nothing to do with trying to dictate religion. But we have seen time and time again where religion, over the centuries, no matter what ethnic background that you come from, has led to the downfall of man, because they are governed by so many different things that it brings a sense of confusion in the minds of many people who stay in religion or different religions because, again, of family, history, and different factors. And they are not allowed, or their mind is not allowed to be groomed. And that processing is not allowed by God because, again, of religious practices, many of which are man-made. So what we find happening now is that many of them stay, yes, but what happens down the road? That is just one example of millions across the world. And that is something that we need to discuss carefully. And this is why I'm really glad that even though Mr. Satmaraj has his position on it, I have seen many other Hindu organizations come out against it. Yeah? So they are stepping away from, the whole cultural or religious perspective, and they are looking at it from a more humane perspective, which is how we're supposed to see this thing. Even if you don't want to get all spiritual, from just being humane. And that's why, again, is not about, it's about how you think as an individual, as a human being. Put aside your religion, put that on the doorstep for a while and have a seat. And look at this from a humane perspective. And you're going to see things a whole lot clearer. I think that is what some people are not doing. They are riding on the coattails of religion. And I'm telling you, there's going to come a point that the coattails are going to tear and people are going to fall on their faces. Put aside all the religious dogma and look at it from a human being. And see, again, in the context of culture and environment and how children are impacted today compared to thousands of years ago of the country that they're in. Even in India and some parts of Africa, they are trying to outlaw it. So what makes us any different? Let's go to the second clip quickly. This is a country in the Asian part of the world, some part of Asia, and another example of how it has affected children there.
रमाइलो यस्तै हाँसी खुसीमा जान्छ क्या भविष्य सोचे त अहिले त के को हाँस्न जान्थे अनि वर्ष 14 वर्ष भयो मेरो बिहे भएको 1.5 साल भयो साथीहरु स्कुल जाँदा रहर लाग्छ
Nepal has the third highest rate of child marriage in Asia. 37% of girls marry before they're 18 and 10% before 15, despite the fact that the legal age of marriage is 20. Why are so many girls married?
Society is structured in a way that gives women status of second-class citizen in most of the South Asian countries. They are viewed as economically inactive citizens. Families are happy to marry them off because what will they bring?
Girls are often seen as a burden. Families struggling to get by send girls to work, and then they unload them through marriage.
यहाँ मम्मीले काम गर्न आएको चाङ गर्छ चिया बनाउँछ अनि इटा पार्छ
Child labor is common in Nepal, with about 40% of children working. Girls are more likely to work than boys, and most of the children in hazardous work are girls.
मैले पढ्न खोजेथे अझै मलाई बाबुआमाले नपढाइदिएर मलाई पठाइन्छ साउनी दाई साउनी आउनुभएको थियो लिनलाई म रोथेँ जान्न म घरमै बस्छु भनेर भनेको थिएँ त्यतिखेर बाउ अगाडि नै पैसा लिइसक्नुभएको थियो 3000 जति जानै पर्यो अनि
Girls who work often have to leave school, and once they leave school, they're more likely to get married. What keeps girls out of school? Child labor, domestic burdens, boys being prioritized over girls, and poverty.
आमा हजुरबुवासँग बस्थेँ अनि ती पढ्थे ती लेख्थे नै बस अलि समस्या हुनाले मैले बिहे हुन बाध्य भएँ पढाइमा खर्च नलागे नि किताब कलम किन्नै पर्ने ड्रेस किन्नै पर्ने अनि त्यो त खर्च भइहाल्छ नि त्यसपछि त्यस्तो उनै धनी पुँजी नै अब मेरो बिहे भएको बाजेबोजैले अलि सुख पाउन् अनि म गएपछि अलि खाना लाउन अलि पुग्ला भनेर
Rumors and gossip can have life-altering consequences.
मलाई पहिला केटाको जस्तो वास्ता थिएन क्या मलाई बिहे गर्ने नि मन थिएन मलाई केटीहरूले भन्न थाल्यो कसैले मामी भनेर जिस्काउने माइजू भनेर जिस्काउने कोही भनेर आन्टी भनेर जिस्काउने कोही के भनेर जिस्काउने म त नि कुनामा गएर रुन थालेँ थिएँ अनि यो कुरा फैलेर बिहे गरेँ मैले त्यसलाई भने ल तँलाई मन्जुर छ मलाई बिहे गर्न भनेर उहाँले भन्नुभयो मन्जुर छ थिएन मेरो केही पनि उपाय थिएन
With a dearth of options, children are choosing to get married on their own, some as young as 12 or 13. In Nepal, these unions are called love marriages, and they're on the rise. Often, they're born of desperation. Children are looking for a way out of abuse or poverty at home, hard labor, or an arranged marriage.
त्योसित नबिहा गरे अर्कैसित गएर अर्कै गाउँमा लिएर त्यस्तै भन्थ्यो गाली गर्थ्यो त्यही भएर नि भागेको
Whether it's a forced child marriage or a love marriage, the damage to the lives of girls and their families is often the same.
मेरो पेटमा अहिले बच्चा छ त्यसै 7 महिना भयो यति सानै उमेरमा यति छिटो बच्चा भयो जस्तो लाग्छ आफैलाई अप्ठ्यारो लाग्छ बच्चाको बारेमा कसरी पाउँछन् के गर्छन् भनेर केही थाहा छैन
तीनटा दुईटा बच्चा भएर बितायो तेस्री बच्चा हुने त्यही हो तिम्रो उमेर सानो भयो त्यही कारणले बच्चा बित्या त्यो तिमीले पेटमा बच्चा पचाउन सकिएन तपाईको पाटे घर सानो भयो मेरो जस्तो हालत मेरो छोरीको नहोस् दिजलले उनलाई यसो धर्म राख्नु भएन
बच्चाको रोल खेल्ने पात्रको नाम के हो सुशील मेरो साथीहरु स्कुल जाँदाखेरि म पनि स्कुल जान पाए हुन्थ्यो भन्ने अलि पढ्न पाए नि हुन्थ्यो आफ्नो खुट्टामा उभिन पाए नि हुन्थ्यो केही गर्न सके नि हुन्थ्यो भन्ने जस्तो लाग्छ
Education and empowerment shouldn't be a distant dream for girls in Nepal.
केटी त अब केही गर्न सक्दैन हैन अब एजुकेसन भएपछि तिनीहरुको बराबरीको रूपमा जान सक्छन् हैन अब तिनीहरुले भन्न पाउँदैन नि त यो केटीको जात तलै पर्छ कहिले नि हामीसँग मतलब त माथि हुँदैन
कानुनी रूपमा नेपालमा चाहिँ प्रगति नै मानिन्छ दक्षिण एसियामै कानुनी प्रगति मानिन्छ तर त्यो कानुन कतिको कार्यान्वयन भएको छ त्यो हेर्ने चाहिँ अहिले बेला भइसकेको छ हामी हेर्नु पनि पर्छ कानुन कार्यान्वयनको कुरा पनि
Nepal's government promises reforms, but in towns and villages across the country, change is coming far too slowly. The government needs to come up with a real plan and quickly before more children see their futures stolen from them by child marriage.
So they have it, two countries, Nepal, I think is Malawi, I'm not sure. Nepal. right? A country, a state in Ethiopia, a country, and Nepal. Now, we are nowhere where Nepal is, but they understand, the people they understand how detrimental this is, or can be. So why are we trying to, it's like the law and grace. And I wasn't going to go here, but I have to. I mean, I know some parliamentarians say, don't bring the church and government. I ain't going on that road today. All respect to you as well. But it's like law and grace. There are so many people still living under the law and in bondage by the law, and they're not living in grace. It's the same thing with this issue of child marriages. Many people are still living in bondage under law and not understanding what the grace of God is and how it applies to our lives. And are not allowing God to truly make us into the men and women who we are meant to be. And yes, that was making the point that, you know, we are to run in our own lane and we have to run our own race. And to do that, we have to understand the purpose God has for each one of us. And just because something worked for you then because of a religious perspective, not because necessarily it was, again, being religious doesn't make you right. Being religious doesn't make you right. Again, because it's different, and I'll hear people say because of what the ancestors did and you hear it on both sides, whether it be in terms of the East Indian culture or Afrocentric religions. The ancestors say, okay, what did God say? Forget the ancestors. What did God say? And when we understand that, then we can have a discussion moving forward. I ain't really too concerned what the ancestors say. I want to know what God said. And then we will understand how we need to deal with this thing. Now, as I said, this is a new season. It is a new beginning. And I know the head of the Senator Mahasabha, Mr. Satmaraj, will be challenging the government in court. That was expected. All I will say is let good sense prevail. And let's put aside our religious fabric because it is tearing up in front of our faces and all of us are going to feel the brunt of it if we're not careful. All right? Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up with a song of a gentleman that was in Trinidad recently. And I think we really need to increase the worship in Trinidad and Tobago. Things are just too crazy. And also to offer up a word of encouragement and prayer. You know, for the friends and family and supporters. When I say supporters, those who have worked alongside Father Clyde Harvey.
The devil's the accuser of the brethren. And he hates marriage because marriage is the image of God. He hates marriage because it's the most sacred institution on earth. God created marriage in Genesis chapter 1. It is the first institution he ever created, and it's the foundation for every other institution on earth. And he's a strategist. He understands if he can destroy marriage, he can destroy all of society.
I found out that if our phones are close enough, and if we have a connection on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, come on, I'm about to preach this technology until somebody comes out of hiding. If I got something on my device and you need it on your device, if I can get close enough to your device with my device, what's on my device can jump on your device. If I get close to the one who created me, close to the one who called me, if I stop running and return to the place of my assignment, I got to drop.
So if you want to live behind walls all your life and live an isolated, lonely, miserable life, go ahead. But I suggest that you tear down all your walls and let God be a wall of protection about you. And he says all of your walls will be called peace.
Welcome back. A very interesting show indeed. This is just the beginning. We're going to have a lot more discussions on this topic. Again, I know it's a sensitive place for most people. Again, I'm just saying stay open and, you know, put, again, religious mantra aside and really hear what God is saying to your heart about his children. Wasn't planning to go there. But his children, not yours, his children. We also want to offer a special prayer to Father Clyde Harvey. As you know, there was a situation where he was robbed and assaulted. Threats were made to his life. So let us keep him covered in prayer. He's been doing a lot of great work over the years in, you know, in the northern part of Trinidad, Tobago, in Lavatil, Belmont, these areas. He lets you know he has been on the ground. And let's just keep him in prayer. Keep our brothers and sisters in prayer. Doesn't matter what religion they are. People, keep them in prayer. They are our brothers and sisters nevertheless. All right, I've known him for quite a long time. When he was at San Fernando, that's the Lady of Perpetual Help Church on the promenade. So keep him in prayer. All right. So this time, Todd Delaney, as you know, was in Trinidad for a 3-day conference at First Church of the Open Bible. And the culmination of that would have been a concert. So what we're going to have for you to close things off is part of the concert that would have been on Sunday night as we ask God to bring healing to our land. And even more so, and it first starts off with our heart. Our heart needs to heal first. Too many bitterness amongst our leaders. Let's pray for them as well right here on Cloud 9. Enjoy yourselves. Take care. Be safe on the road, people. Love you.